Hello everyone, AlphaSoul here, and welcome to another video. Today we're actually going to talk about a brand new blog that Intrepid Studios had just released today, and it is the Scientific Nodes in the Know Your Nodes article series. Now, for those of you who have not read this yet or you're just coming across it, there is a link down below that you can actually see it on their website and go ahead and read all about it. And this video is based purely off of that, so it would behoove you to go ahead and check that article out first. So check it out. Come back to this article or come back to this video. Now, I'm actually going to be talking about the 5 things that I found very interesting in this, as well as cover 4 outstanding kind of questions that I had with it. Now, I want to make this video as succinct as possible, so let's just go ahead and get started. Now, the very first thing that I found interesting was something that they pointed out regarding utilities, an overall statement. They said that there are utilities that are specific for citizens of the node. Now, to me, that lends me to believe that we'd be looking at like a 3-tiered thing. In other words, there may be aspects that you saw that are listed out that are, 1, restricted to citizens of the node. There could be ones that are then restricted to citizens of that node and parents and lineage and things of that nature. And there could also be things that are for everyone. Anyone coming to the node would be able to interact and use that ability. I'm curious what that spread is. We see some of the abilities there that they listed in the article. They're not all listed there, but we also did not get what is restricted to who. And I feel, they may be working on that, and that may be something that we'll find out when it go into beta, but that will be very interesting to know, because that will be very key in how relationships amongst players and people between different nodes kind of develop, if you will. The second thing that was very interesting that I found, this is going to be a little bit weird, but the API restriction that Intrepid has stated has suddenly become a little bit more clear. Actually, I'd say it's become very clear in a good way. Now, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, Intrepid had stated before that they wanted to restrict, in other words, they wanted to have an API that was available to players, but it wouldn't be available to players in the way that it has traditionally been available in other games, such as, Elder Scrolls Online, World of Warcraft, pretty much any game that has, these add-ons that you can add to enhance your play, if you will. So I was kind of skeptical about that, just because most of the games that I've played have in-depth add-ons, and if they don't, then they make up for it in some way. And Intrepid looks like are making up for it in another way, but in a very different way, and it's a good way. The fact that, the library is a place where you can go to know, where the last known quantity of gatherable resources are, where dungeons and their inhabitants, rare drop information, that stuff to me presents a clear benefit to wanting to be part of a scientific node, especially if you're a gatherer. It looks like, that coupled with something else that I'm going to mention is absolutely paramount. But now, seeing that coming from the scientific node, I'm curious to see what the other nodes have as well too, because just from that respect, you can kind of see the cool way that they're tying in some functions that other people have developed applications to add on to the MMO to use. They're inside the game, and it makes sense as far as the node structure. So very curious, but I can see why the API restriction and what they kind of wanted to do with that. The third observation, the superpower. That is quite the superpower. We already knew what the superpower technically was of the scientific node, but it wasn't until I saw everything else that was in the node and then kind of have it spelled out with the superpower that I realized, especially with the airship comment, of how powerful that ability can be. If this is, a node of crafters, if you know where the last known, nodes and gatherable resources are, and where the rare drops are, you can on top of that, teleport to different vassal nodes all within that structure. That is quite the ability. You could be a far better or more efficient gatherer than another gatherer who is not of a scientific node, if you will, at least within that sphere. And to me, that presents so many possibilities. If there are 2 metropolises, the fact that there are 2 airships going, that's a game changer, because that changes the whole caravan, the whole trade route, especially between those 2 cities. It looks like you wouldn't even be able to, as somebody on the outside, think about or even come across a way to disrupt their trade, since they have airships going back and forth between each other. So to me, reading that, kind of tying the whole together, that is a superpower. That's a very good superpower. Now, I'll be interested to see what is the effect of that power, because the vassal nodes underneath the metropolis, so that would be the library, or I forgot what it's called. They have it. It's like an academy, yeah. But the vassal nodes that are under it, if you are a citizen of those vassal nodes, you can utilize a teleportation, but it looks like you can only go to the capital and back to your node. Whereas if you're in the master or the parent node with, you can teleport to any one of the vassal nodes and back and forth, and you have a much better way of traveling, around the map, if you will. So I'm curious to see if that's going to bleed people dry from the other node, and I wouldn't say lesser nodes, but from the underlying nodes, especially if that underlying node is another scientific node. So that'll be interesting to see, because I technically don't see any benefit if a larger node, scientific node, has a smaller scientific node, other than community. We'll see. That should be something interesting that I think would have to be tackled. The next interesting thing that I saw was we got a max level slip. Apparently, it looks like you can get crafting recipes up to 50. I'm guessing that might be the actual max level. I don't think we've ever had that confirmed, and so it was nice to actually see that, if that is indeed, unless that's the max craftable level that you can get. But I'm thinking that it's 50. I'll definitely ask the question. And then finally, the other interesting thing that I saw was the fact that adjacent bonuses for buildings on your freehold, the bonuses can be unlocked at the stage 5. It looks like, if you purchase that thing. Very interesting, just because it kind of is going along with the building node, but I didn't realize that it would be something that is locked behind something that you need to purchase from the metropolis, or from the scientific node, if you will. Now, a good thing that it's actually not locked behind, that node at least is not locked behind, or ability is locked behind the metropolis level. But yeah, that should be interesting. So that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about the 4 questions that I actually had that were outstanding. The first one is essentially around recipes. I'm wondering, if you learn a recipe from the scientific node, this is assuming they're locked or something like that. If you leave the node, will you be able to keep that knowledge? Or I'm assuming you would, but you never know. It might not even be locked by node citizenship, so it could be irrelevant. Second question that I had to do with legendaries. The legendaries that were at the metropolis node. If there is no metropolis node on that server, does that mean that portion of legendaries is simply not there and you can't get legendaries on that server? I'm wondering if that's the case. Next question I had was, I'm wondering what the legendary item deconstruction was. It may play some critical part that we just don't know just yet, but I'm curious what it is. And then finally, building schematics. What are they? I can kind of guess what they are, but I'm really interested in hearing a little bit more about that. So yeah, so that's pretty much it, guys. Outstanding article, had a lot of information. Again, check it out. There's a lot of stuff to digest, and actually I can't wait to discuss it tomorrow on the From the Ashes podcast, where we will have a special guest, so check it out. All right, thanks guys, take care of yourselves, and you guys have a great day.